If you want an automated way of selling your products or services 24/7, 365, an auto webinar is your answer. All right, guys, so I'm going to walk you through step by step what's the process of creating your first or next auto webinar. And the platform that I'm using for this, it's Clickfunnels. Now, I'll have other trainings and tutorials on how to do it with Everwebinar. It's a little more advanced. It's a little more complex of a process. However, for somebody just doing this for the first time, Clickfunnels, this is the drag and drop sales funnel builder that I'm using to create this. It's the perfect place to start. And I'll put it in the description below, even an actual omnipresence training class that you can watch. It's completely for free on how you are able to become omnipresent and do this on autopilot. But right now, let's go into the platform. So right here, I'm logged in into one of my Clickfunnels accounts. And you know, my favorite case study is my wife's business. So she was a lash artist, she still is. But when this whole COVID situation started, her lash salon was the first one to be shut down. So, you know, my thoughts, my marketing experience came into place, and we said, okay, you have to put together a training class, half an hour to an hour training class where you teach people something, and then at the end you pitch a product or a service, right? So she put together an online course teaching people how to become lash artists, right? And the sales mechanism to sell this is an auto webinar. So an auto webinar, as you can see in here, has the registration page, a confirmation for that registration page, the webinar broadcast room where people click to watch. They have a replay room. And then, you know, these three are optional. I wouldn't necessarily recommend them at first, just because, again, you want to keep things simple. You want to be able to get in, implement it, and get it going as fast as possible. Indoctrination pages are essentially just what they say they are. Like, you have to kind of embed other videos. So, for example, if you are teaching a 3-step masterclass or a 3 bullet point type of training class on the webinar, inside of these indoctrination pages, you can also add kind of complementary topics, right? So if I would teach something about how to get more traffic for your website, and then the platforms that I'm using are Google, YouTube, and Instagram, well, indoctrination pages could also be how to benefit from the traffic that you're getting and putting into a sales funnel, right? Or something like that. So, but at first I would say delete them. Even for my wife, she doesn't use these. Currently, we left them on the page inside the funnel, but we don't use them. Then you need a sales page if the product is higher than $500-600, order page, and receipt, right? So let me walk you through her funnel first real quick, and then we'll go into how you actually build it. So registration page looks something like this, super simple, right? Exclusive free training from, and then you have to build some credibility, right? So for her, she's an esthetician, licensed one, lash artist, boom, boom, right? And then a headline that actually hooks people in, right? So for her, we did some research. We realized that people are really interested in getting lash certified, right? And then learn all techniques to start lashing right away and apply fabulous lashes. So then, you know, we have a short survey in here that people can take, so they can click, you know. You don't necessarily need this. However, it helps with the engagement a little bit. And then at the end, they click, they choose the date, right? This is all done and handled by this platform, Clickfunnels, that I'm talking about. I would also recommend give people something for free, something that it incentivizes them to actually sign up for this webinar, right? You want to mention how many people are allowed on the webinar. Again, who you are. Also build some credibility on the page. So I know I did some research, and it seems that people really believe these two brands. I mean, this one is the school that she got certified from. This one is a big lash brand in the beauty industry, so that's why we choose those to use them. Then we share with them, and actually, I wouldn't necessarily recommend having 6 bullet points. I'm actually going to delete 3 of them, so we'll just leave 3. For the start, have some testimonials in here, really, really help. And that's pretty much what it is for registration page, right? And then of course, you want the pop-up to also show up if somebody's trying to exit the page. So now let's go into the confirmation. So confirmation page is where they land if they decide to just sign up. They get on the thank you page, registration page, and that's literally what it is. What we're doing here, we are not necessarily profiting, I would say more break even, because she's selling a workbook that is $3, $2.97. So when people get on this registration page, they can purchase the workbook, and then we also upsell them different things like a light lash artist course and a few other things like this. So you can do this, or you can just have people download something for free. Another thing that we've done in here is we've added this cool ManyChat feature, but that's for another training. Actually, I'll put in the description below the process for doing one of these chat bubbles, what I like to call them. We also invite them to join the Facebook group, so when they click this button, they can get to the Facebook group. Then we have the broadcast room. So broadcast room looks something like this. It probably won't work. Oh no, actually it does work. So it's an auto webinar, keep in mind. So it we don't necessarily tell people that it's live. I would never recommend you lie and say that it's live when it's not. However, using Clickfunnels and also hosting the video, like the actual webinar file, onto a platform like Vimeo allows you to be able to, use this page. This also only works on mobile the way that it does here. On desktop. If people open up this page on mobile, they are able to actually scroll left and right. So keep that in mind. You may not see it on desktop, but on mobile, when they open up the page, they're able to scroll. So, but on the actual broadcast room, you don't need too many things. You just want to make sure that the webinar plays and the audio plays, and that's it, right? So that's it for the broadcast room. Now what happens is we have a button in here that triggers when my wife mentions the offer. People are able to see this button. So as you can see in here, we got an action for, I'm sorry, not the action, but the advanced animation says time delay. Oh, actually, no, it does not. There's no, so usually you can add delay in here. It should have been actually 25 minutes until the action offer is showing up. So let me see if it was, oh, you know what happened? It's actually the settings in the section itself. No, it's not. So that's interesting. Okay. Nonetheless, oh, it's in the settings of the green thing. Advanced animation, 20 minutes. Okay, so I wasn't wrong entirely. So I'm going to delete this animation of 25 because it does show right here in the settings this 20-minute thing. Okay, so I'm not going to save anything because everything was the way that it should have. We also have the training replay. So as you can see in here, if somebody's missing this, I'll walk you through the automation itself as well, but I'm going to show you right now. What happens is you want to tell people when the replay it's happening. So what's actually going on is when they click on the replay, they can see the button right away. And this is, we just found that it works much better than have people wait again, because it's a replay. They should be able to skip back and forth. Therefore, we just let that in there. And then we have the sales page. The sales page essentially indoctrinates quote unquote people on why they should buy the course itself. We have a little scarcity in there when people, if they don't sign up. So the course, I think it's a limited time offer now for $100, and then we upsell them the $297 one. So this is what the sales page looks like. And then we have the order page in here. Order page. So the difference, usually I would recommend people that watch the webinar go straight to this order page. So not, they don't go straight to the sales page. They go straight to the order page, the checkout page. Sales page, as what it sounds, is just indoctrinates people a little more. So if you're running some cold ads straight to the sales page, they should go on the sales page. If you do it through a webinar, they should come straight here. So that's why we have the sales page in there as well. So you get the point. So right now, I'm just going to show you that this is just drag and drop, and then I'll walk you through how you create it yourself, right? So everything that you see in here is drag and drop, right? Like the button, I can change the color if I want to. I can change things, titles in here, and all the rest. I'm not going to save anything just to make sure nothing has changed. Okay. So the way that you create an webinar, an auto webinar, webinar is for another training. You come right here into funnels, right? You come right here into Clickfunnels. And by the way, if you need a full-blown YouTube course on how to use Clickfunnels, below this video, it's going to be a playlist just on Clickfunnels alone. So if you don't know how to do that, you'll be able to learn in there. So you click new funnel, and usually I go through this cookbook builder process just because it's faster. I click start cookbook, and usually Clickfunnels allows you to choose from what type of events you're trying to do, what type of goals you want to run. So right here we got auto webinar. I'll select this auto webinar option, and then I'll just hit one of them, and then we can change. So again, these are just pages. You don't necessarily have to use these exact ones, and I would actually advise not to. However, you just start with one of these, and then you're able to change them the way that you want them to look like. So we'll come all the way on the bottom here and just hit get funnel. What's going to happen now is in a few moments is going to import all these steps that I showed you inside of our Clickfunnels account, and then we'll be able to use them and start customize them with our own colors, and boom, that's it. Now, very important thing to remember, it will not import a sales page and an order page, so you will have to add a new step in here, and I will just add checkout. I will just add a simple page that will just show you how to create your own checkout page. So we would go right here into sales page, order form, because that's what it is. It's an order form. And again, guys, these are all simple pages that are, part of their software. I would actually advise you to go and customize the pages to look nice, to match your brand. So don't just use, what they have in here. I mean, some of them are pretty cool. I'll show you in just a moment. But some of them I do recommend you, right? So let's hit preview. It's going a little slow. So this one, it's actually super ugly. Sorry, Clickfunnels is it's bad. So let's go. Okay, so now we can see them. So we'll just choose this one as an example. And then we'll also need a receipt page, or the receipt page kind of also replaces so I'll put the name receipt. It kind of keeps the place for your thank you page, right? The difference is on the receipt page, you can also add a summary of what they have purchased. So order confirmation, it's the receipt page. And we'll choose a simple one, let's say one that we haven't used. Maybe a simple one, but one that looks decent. So I think this is the one that matches what we wanted. So we'll get into the checkout and receipt page in just a moment. Right now, it's important to go inside of these auto webinar registration pages and see the things that you can have. So First things first, you want to understand that you have two platforms that you can optimize the page for. Number one is desktop. Well, actually, number one is mobile. And number two is desktop. I see a lot of people optimizing the pages to look beautiful for desktop, and then you go to mobile and it looks like crap. So you want to pay attention to that, right? So see how this thumbnail, how this headline looks like. You want to click this button that says mobile size. So you hit edit mobile, and then you go in here and you make it so much smaller. I would probably delete this, right? And a couple of things that you want to keep in mind is when you do changes or change different things on these, you want to really focus on what's above the fold. So I would actually recommend you have the headline and all the rest of the things. I almost want to put these just available on desktop. You'll see why in a second. But so then when we click to mobile, right now we are able to see this. And if I want some extra text in here, but this is what you want people to see, like you want to allow them to sign up. Now, however, I would say that you should have name or first name and email, not just email alone. So I would say first name, and then see that we got the icon. So we want to put name, icon, and then your first name here. Okay, so you want to hit save, and then when you come back to mobile, you're able to see, right, like they both have these things in here. Now, if they don't have a pop-up in there, I would actually advise you to do, let's see if we are still, let's try to, boom, see, when I try to exit, this one pops up. So this is a pop-up page, and you can easily just, so here's a little trick that you can do. You can just save this entire thing and say webinar pop-up test, so I don't get confused. Then I come here into the pop-up, edit settings, plus I'm going to add the row as my own. Let's see what it says, pop-up test, right? So guess what? I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete this as well. And then I'll probably end up just adding one column on its own. And then I'm going to add these different elements on the page. And I have to spend a little time to make them nice, of course, right? Like, because now it looks like crap. But you get the point. You get what I mean in here. It's just so important to, this will probably be on top. Then we need the actual headline right on top of it. And then we need this little text. So, boom, right? And then I would probably do the, let's see how it looks on mobile. Boom, not that bad. Not that bad at all. We may just need to make this text a little smaller. And boom, right? Now, of course, you can make this button look in full length if you want to, and a couple other things. We're not going to spend too much time on design because you can see how easy it is to just drag and drop these things, and then you are able to get it going. Now, you can, and I actually advise to do, fill up all these things. Make sure you have what it is, number 1, 2, 3, what it is that people want to know about the actual webinar that you're about to teach. Also, we got the settings here on top, and then the SEO metadata. So webinar test. I'm just going to save this as it is. But something that I want to point out is, even though you add a funnel like this on its own, you can still add steps. So for example, if I would do webinar 2 page, or I should have said second page, but you can add another template, but it's crucial. And when I say crucial, it's crucial for you to choose an auto webinar template. So let's assume you don't like this registration page at all and like 0. Well, guess what? If you want to change that, you better make sure that you choose the step as being an auto webinar template. If you do this one and you initially created an auto webinar funnel, and then you add a live registration template, it's going to screw everything up and it's just not going to work. And it's going to be full of errors and you're going to be so pissed after a couple days or maybe weeks that you send in traffic to it and things will go wrong. So just hear me out and make sure you choose an auto webinar registration template. As simple as that. So it's very, very important. Now, when you get to these pages, you can choose any page that you like in here. However, I do recommend one that it's super, super simple. And don't ask me why, it's just, it works. So this is how it looks like. This one is one of the simplest pages ever, but it just works. So, and you know, sometimes us as entrepreneurs, we like to complicate things, but hear me out, just make sure make sure you don't. So this one here, it has, you know, it already has the actual pop-up. So what you want to do is you want to hit edit settings and you want to show it when user tries to exit. Very, very, very important. Okay, so one thing that you could also do is you can duplicate this. Oh, you can duplicate this button and you can try to keep pushing it up, because what happens is you need this button to also show above the fold, right? Remember that we said that is where people are actually seeing, this is where people are actually seeing what they should do right on before they start scrolling or before they have to start scrolling, right? So keep that in mind. So let me delete this. May need to push this a little bit. And sometimes you may need to do, let's say, one column. Oh, if I want to do a smaller one, you go here into width and then you can make it smaller, right? If you don't want to have your button this big, you can click on settings and then you come here to width and then you make it smaller, right? And then on mobile, it'll look beautiful. It's just on desktop. Sometimes you want to pay attention to what exactly shows before people start scrolling, because that's like super important. Okay, so boom, voila, this is what it is. You got your registration page. Make sure you are optimizing it. Webinar test 2, and then I hit save. And of course, I would actually advise you to go and, you know, have the test, the webinar title, a little bit of a description, keywords, right? Your name, and very important to actually have a page in here. We're not going to focus too much on these details right now, but for example, if you have something like this with like multiple devices, you should have something like this on the bottom. I mean, not on the bottom, but as a social image. Okay, so hit save. And then we go out. And what I'm going to do, because this is a page that I actually like. So what I'll do is I'll delete the actual registration. So see what it says in here, auto webinar registration. You want that to say, because if it says live webinar registration, it just means that you screwed everything up. So then if you want to, you can also add a new step. And then let's say you do a thank you page. Thank you webinar page. Create a funnel. The funnel step, I'm sorry. And then you will do the same thing. You have to make sure you come to the auto webinar. Click on the thank you page of this option in here. And it seems they only have 2 of these. So usually I would go with either this one or this one, but let's assume we choose this one. And for the thank you page, you should have, you know, a video that says something to kind of incentivize people to still watch the webinar, right? Like give them a little bonus, give them something. That it doesn't matter what, but give them something for them to want to show up for the actual class itself, right? Now, something very, very important is this part here that it says automation. So in the automation, we have a couple events that we can trigger with our webinar. So as you can see here on the bottom, you got new action, new email, and new SMS text. I won't go in deep into any of them. However, you want to add an email for all of these options. Actually, you need more emails. So for example, you need an email for, let me actually show you. So this is Luminous Auto Webinar. Let me show you my wife's auto webinar automation sequence. So if I click here into the automation, you should have something like this. So you should have a couple, like you need an email sign up. You need a reminder a couple hours before the class, and then you need a reminder right a few moments or maybe like half an hour before the actual webinar. A webinar sign up tag is, I just added, this is a little more advanced strategy. So I added a tag into Clickfunnels to be able to push the functionality of the lead itself. So when somebody signs up and becomes a lead, we are able to send it to another platform that I do the email marketing with, and that's Entreport. But you can use MailChimp, you can use, these emails are actually inside of Clickfunnels. But if you want to take it a step further, you can actually automate this stuff to a whole new level. So you also have, you know, missed webinar. So you need an email that says missed webinar, right? So for example, I can click edit. And by the way, guys, I'll give you this complete template for this auto webinar that also has some built-in emails already written. So don't worry about that. Of course, make sure you go in there and change the name of these emails and then what it says in the email, of course. But I'll give you this complete template, like completely for free. Don't worry about it. It's you just need a Clickfunnels account to be able to import it. Okay. So see that it says everyone. So everyone should have a couple emails. One of them, it's the registration confirmation, 2 reminders. Then somebody that missed the webinar should receive a missed webinar email. Attended but didn't get the offer. You need a sales email in here. Saw the offer but didn't purchase. Give them this option. And then another reminder. And then we don't send an email to people that purchased here because we send them an email from the order page. So in case you're wondering why we don't do this, well, this is why. Okay. So like I told you, let's go back into the actual funnel itself. We'll go into the registration page in just a moment. So let's click recent. So the auto webinar that we just created. So thank you webinar page is essentially also the countdown that make people watch the countdown, and then when the countdown hits 0, they get redirected to the page itself. So it works the same way like I told you before. You just change these. You change the colors if you want to, right? Just make sure you save it. Webinar test page, right? Something like this. And you want to do a good job optimizing that. So don't just leave it standing, right? And again, you would do everything that I showed you in the previous step when it comes to metadata. If you want to add some Facebook or Google or YouTube pixels, this is where you would do it. You'll go into the tracking code and actually add those codes in here. So this is what it is on the webinar sign up page and thank you page, and we're going to go into the checkout in just a moment. So what do you want? Oh no, the webinar broadcast room. So what happens is when the timer hits 0 after they sign up, Clickfunnels automatically sends or it just redirects people, if they're still on the page, to the actual webinar itself. So what you need to do is you need to embed a video into either Vimeo, or you could do it on YouTube, but YouTube, they'll be able to just skip forward, or they'll be able to just click on the button on the video itself and they'll go to YouTube. So I don't advise you to do to embed the video on YouTube. So it's super simple. You can go to Vimeo, right? You come in here into one of your videos, and then you just share and then copy embedded code. So then when you come to this page, you just hit custom embed, video embed the code of the video, and then when I hit preview, boom, the video plays in here, right? Now you can mess around with the settings for this one and see what it says, interaction tools. I'm sorry, not interaction, embedded. You can deselect the play bar, right? Boom, right? So you deselect the play bar. You don't do full screen. You don't allow people to hit full screen, because when they do, they'll be able to just scroll back and forth. But you deselect the play bar, and that way the play bar will only show on the front, in the middle of the video, like on the front page, right? So right here, let me just save this one real quick so you can see it. It probably takes a little bit, so I don't know if it's gonna show up right there. Yeah, so it takes a little bit for this to kind of activate. Let's copy the code again and then replace it in here. And now let's save it and hit preview. Yeah, so it takes a little bit for this to update, but this is what it's going to look like, right? See how the play button only shows in the middle, and it's the same way that it shows into I showed you my wife's account. So for example, if I go in here and I say I want to watch the broadcast now, just hit submit, you'll see, boom, see that it only shows this. There's no play button here that you can scroll. So that's just a little trick for you guys to be able to do this nice. One thing that you'll need onto the broadcast room is you need a button, because people have to buy, right? So you need a button that allows people to buy right there on the webinar when the time comes, right? So you'll put the URL of the order page in here. So you'll put orderpage.com. Of course, you won't put that, but you get the point. And then when they watch the webinar, this button shows up, and you can also click settings, and you got this advanced option, animation, and you can say, hey, show this video, because it's delay. Show this video only, show this button only 20 minutes later. So if you know that in the webinar you mentioned the actual offer at 20 minutes, well, you put this button to show up only at 20 minutes, not before. You don't want to put a sales button in front of somebody that is not knowing that they're going to be pitched, right? Webinar replay room, the same exact thing. The only difference is for the replay room, I would advise you to leave people with the full page, with the full screen functionality. So on the replay, when you come to copy the code, I would actually allow them to do full screen and play and volume control, because what happens is people are watching the replay, so they know that it's a replay, right? So because of that, you want to be fair and let people scroll back and forth if they want to. If that's what they want, I mean, might as well let people do the thing. Same thing, you want to add the button in here. And the easiest way, the way that I do it all the time, is so you don't lose time with every single thing that you want to change, is I do one page really good. So for example, I do the footer, the header for this, the button, right? Like I added all these things on the first page. And then instead of you having to change all of these every single time, what you do is you come here on the bottom and see what it says. So let's say I want this button, or maybe I want this button, or this entire green section. You can come right here where you have this save little tab. You hit save and you save the section. So let's say I do webinar 1 section. So I hit save. I come to the, whatever, let's assume it's the thank you webinar page. I can hit edit. And let's assume I want this and it's not in here. I could go into my sections and add this one in here, right? So you get the point. I'm going to delete it now, but you can do the same thing with the header, the footer, you know, any vibe that you do on the page itself, on the original one. Then you just want to model that so it doesn't, you know, take too much time to do it. And then you have the checkout page, right? So on the checkout page, I have to select products, and in the product section, I need to be able to add a new product and be able to, right, like you'll just follow the steps. Let's just do it real quick. So I'll click my Stripe integration. I'll just click save and next. Test button. Oh, test button. Or test product. Let's say it's $297. Save and next. Save and next. Probably need to do another save and next in just a moment. And then another thing that you could do is if you have multiple products, like let's say you have an upsell and a downsell and all the rest, we can also enable a fulfillment email if that's what we want to do. To be able to send people emails of confirmations based on whatever products, you know, they purchased. If you just have one product, you don't necessarily need it. You can also, I'll show you in a second, you can just hit save and next. I'll show you in a second that you can just come here to the checkout page and hit the automation tab, and you're still able to add emails based on these triggers. But if you have multiple products, you can just send an email to everybody, right? You have to send individual emails. And at that point, the product's fulfillment email comes into place. And then the receipt page just essentially says thank you, invites people to maybe a Facebook group, or if you have an online course, you just allow people to sign up for that members area. And by the way, in the description below, I'll put a full tutorial. It's like 20 minutes long, 30 minutes long, on how to create your online course from scratch. And actually, in just a moment, I'll have a little surprise for you that you can go and implement for yourself. So guys, this is how you create your own webinar, but don't go anywhere. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you've done this and if it works. Hit that like button just to kind of mess around with the YouTube algorithm. But don't go anywhere, because in the right of the screen right here, I'll put a full training on how you can create your online course from scratch. It's right here on YouTube, so don't go anywhere. Start watching the next video here. I think you'll enjoy it.